This episode sponsored by Lake Monster Details, producing the Don's Light and Magic Legacy line of parts, offering upgrade parts and decals for accuracy, special effects, and lighting. Visit www.lakemonsterdetails.com and make it glow. Also sponsored by GCals, producing aftermarket replacement decals and custom quality graphics for your favorite spaceships. Visit www.gcals.company.site and add some personalization to your sci-fi models today. Also sponsored by Mask Design, boldly going where no masking kit has gone before. Take your model to the next level of detail and accuracy with a masking kit from Mask Design. Visit Mask Design on Facebook or click the ordering link in the notes below the video. Also sponsored by Paragrafix. Add superior detail and accuracy to your models with photo etch, resin, and multimedia accessories from your first source for photo etch parts and more. Paragrafix. They count rivets so you don't have to. Visit Paragrafix at www.paragrafix.biz or click the link in the notes below this video. What's up, fellow modelers, fellow model heads? Welcome to the Engine's Chair. We are going to continue our 1537 USS Reliant build, and this episode we're going to get the start of our light, just our base lighting in, which is our windows. And I've got the impulse. I'll just give you a quick preview. This is what I've got right now. That battery is just temporarily taped in there. It's running my lighting for my my shuttle bay door right there, my shuttle bay lighting, which that battery is about dead, which is why it's not very bright. But you can kind of get an idea with some of that lighting, how that's going to turn out. So I've got that going. I've got all my light boxes done. These are all final and in. I am making some adjustments to that light box for the shuttle bay because it needs to be resized a little bit. Same with the impulse deck. I've got that in place as well, but again, I'm doing some resizing on that. And that's pretty much where we're at this episode. So not a whole lot done, but there's a lot of stuff I'm doing a lot of testing, and as far as making these parts takes a lot of time too to kind of get them sized right so they all fit in there together. But making progress. So hopefully next video we'll have this done. Maybe another video after that before I get the internal lighting on this also done. We'll see. It just depends on how much more testing I have to do and everything. I do need to work on the Arduino program for this and get some stuff tested. So that's kind of why we are where we are at the end of this episode. But we're making progress. So give me a minute. I'll put you on the bench. We'll get to work. All right. So I started working on starting to work on this lighting. Now that I've pretty much got those modifications completed. And one of the first things I wanted to work on though was these corner vents. And what I've come up with is, let me see, where's my battery? Take a battery here and show you what I've got. Let me focus this a little bit first, see where we need to be at, right about there. I'm going to take this battery, and you can see how I've got that kind of lit up in there. A little bit of diffusion going on. If I need to diffuse a little more, I can paint a little black on that and it'll still come out the sides. The reason it'll still come out the sides is because I made a 3D printed part, and it's big enough to put a 3mm LED into. And you see that'll fit right in there. And really what you see is you see light coming out. This diffuses it, and you get light coming out these sides. And if you don't want the light, if you notice then that there's a little bit of light shining through where the LED is sitting here. You can always just paint this solid black if you only want the light coming out the vents, but I kind of like the look of that bridge between the two sides in the middle there, so I'm probably going to leave it like that. But yeah, I think that turned out pretty well. I think that'll look good lit up. Obviously I've still got some work to do around the edges here. You can see I still got to fill that gap yet, but if I can get the battery box to stay on there long enough to show this. And there we go. So you can see how that lights up. I like the way that looks. I think that'll be good. I changed these out. I think these come these LEDs are pre-resistored. I think they have like a 470 ohm resistor on them or something. I changed those out for 1,000 ohm because I didn't want this to be a really bright light on these corners. I just wanted to have kind of a somewhat dim light. It's still a little brighter than what I want. I may, if I want to, I can always throw another resistor in line to bring it down some more, but I'm going to wait and see how it looks after I get everything done. Before I seal the saucer up, I can always throw another resistor on there. But once I get everything together and see how everything looks overall, once I get all the lighting done before I seal the saucer up, if I think that's still too bright, I can always come in then and add another resistor in line. I don't have to remove that resistor again. I can just add on another, 100 ohm, 200 ohm, whatever I want to bring it down, and bring that light down some more. But so the way that I install these, and I'll show you how I've got this one in right now. If you can make it out, there we go. But what I did was I put it in place with the light lit up, so I could make sure that what you want to do is make sure that those lines aren't like the lines, the openings here. You want to make sure that they're not like at an angle to the grills, because it doesn't look right when they are. So what I do is I put the LED, attach the LED to this, and then while I've got a battery clip to it, because I've got a clip for these where I can clip a 9-volt to these, I'll line it up and make sure it's lined up the way that I want it to be in here, and then I'll drop just a little bit of CA glue in place, hit it with the zip kicker, lock it down, and then I can come in with CA glue and put some CA glue around the sides, and that's how I get that in there. And then I come in, what you can see on there, well, if I can get it to show up again, let me flip it around, had better luck this way. What you see in there is I've got some black tulip around there that kind of block it out, so I'm not getting light leaks around the edges. So I've got that sealed up pretty good, and I've got to do this side next. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my LED, and I'm just going to put a little bit of CA glue on. It doesn't take a whole lot. I'm going to get this glued in place and let that set up for a minute. Actually, I can just hit it with a little zip kicker to kind of lock it in quicker. And once I've got this locked in place, I can hold it in this corner. Oh, and the other thing I should mention with this, I did have to remove a little bit of, I don't know if you'll make it out, but I did remove a little bit of material on that inside part there to the left where I've got that insert right here. I did remove a bit of material to make this so that this piece would fit in here flush, and wasn't kind of cockeyed at all going in there. So we'll get this in place. I'm gonna get my, I didn't grab my my little 9-volt connector, so I'm going to try to hold this in place to do this for now. Yeah, that's not going to work. Let me grab, nope, that one. There we go. Let me grab this connector here. I'll just splice these together real quick. Should have been prepared and had this done off camera, but it didn't. But this makes it a little bit easier when I don't have to hold that battery in place. What I can do is just twist these wires together. And now I can connect my battery. Now it'll stay clipped in, so now I don't have to hold on to that. That way I can just focus on getting this. Yep. Hang on, because I don't need this shortened out. All right. And these just want to touch each other. Oh, where is... I just need a little piece of tape from off of here somewhere. Put a little piece of tape around this so these aren't shorting out on me. I don't need to blow this LED and I got to start over again. All right, let's try this again. So now I can hold this up. And you can kind of see, you don't want it like that at an angle because obviously that doesn't look right. So once I get this lined up and sitting in there to where it looks good. Oh, one other thing I want to point out before I glue this. So you'll notice that right above and below where this part's going, you have openings where you've got to put nav lights. So to allow access to that, you can see on this part I've made it angled on the top and bottom. So that way you're not blocking access to put in those nav lights once you install this part. So just wanted to point that out. I did take that into consideration, and that won't keep you from being able to put your nav lights in. So we get this in place. Like I said, I just want this to be to where it's not sitting at an angle crosswise from it. And I want to make sure it's completely covering this this vent. So I'm going to take some CA glue, and I'm just going to put a dot, a little line across the top here to hold it. Hit it with some zip kicker. There we go. That pretty much locks that in place. So you can see how that turned out. So I think that should do good. So now all I got to do is put a little more CA glue on the sides here. Make sure it's good and locked in. But on this one side, be careful because that's where your hole is. Oops, sorry, fix that. Don't forget you've got that hole right here. I've got a piece of plastic on here. You've got that hole right here in the triangle that you need to be able to light, and you don't want to get CA glue in there to block that, or in this bottom part right here, and I think I've got a little bit in there. Let's see, where's my drill bit so I can clear that out before I hit it with some zip kicker. If it does close up, I can always drill it back open with my drill bit. All right, so we got that. Yep. Got a little bit outside there, but that's all right because I got to do some more sanding and blending the seams there anyway. All right, so now we've got that installed, and there we go. And I don't know if I have, yeah, I've got a little bit of a light leak. You can see that pin leak right there to the left side. And that's what the black tulip is for. You just come in with some tulip and run it down the sides. Run a bead right down the sides here, and that'll help block that out so you don't have that light leak. And it looks like there's still a little bit at the top there. All right, here we go. Maybe a little bit there. But you get the idea. I'll go through and finish sealing up or getting rid of the rest of these little light leaks I got going on around it. But that's pretty much how those are going to run. I think that's going to be a great looking effect to have those dimly lit on the corner. And next thing I'm going to work on is getting the internal lighting run. And if you haven't seen any of my previous builds, you know that I like using this wrapping wire. And I think I got this from HDA Model Works. But you get this roll. I don't remember how much it costs. It's not terribly expensive. You get this roll, and this has lasted me. I've had this for probably at least two, if not 3 years now, and you can see how much I've still got a ton of this left. And that's with building several models. So I get it in red and black because obviously those are the easiest colors to do. But another thing I'll do too, again, if you've seen any of my other builds, you know I like to use, and I don't have it out right now, I'll have to show it when I come back from a break. But I've got some multicolored ribbon wire, rainbow colored ribbon wire, and that lets me use different colors for different circuits. So when I do the nav lights in this, when I use that board to run the nav lights, I will use different colors from these to indicate that those are for the nav lights. And for, well, I'll do a separate circuit for the navs and of course a separate circuit for the strobes. So I'll use different colors for those. That way when I get this done, I'm ready to wire everything together, I know what that color code is for, what that color is for. Not a whole lot of circuits to run on this model because I'm not doing the photons on this, and I'm not doing like phasers or anything like that to where I got to light those up. So just simple circuits. I've just got the internal lighting and then the flash, the strobe and the nav lights to wire in, and that's all I'm doing on this. So, but let me get this set up and we'll come back and see where we're at. All right, guys. So this won't be anything new for those of you that have seen Boyd's builds over there at TrekWorks. Unfortunately, we lost recently, but his videos still live on his channel. Hopefully his family has a plan to keep those going, or we have some way to keep those in archive. But if you've seen his builds, you know that he uses a similar technique. As a matter of fact, this is where I got the technique, was from watching Boyd do his builds. And basically I'm running this power source in parallel, which means I'm running a dedicated positive and negative around the base of the saucer. And what I do is, as I go along, I tack this down. I leave a little bit of slack, you can see in this, to where I can, when I'm ready to hook in anything that needs power, I can just pull these apart, hook it in, and then solder the connection, and that'll all be good to go. So I've got this this pretty much set up. I'm just running a little more wire around the back here. I have not decided yet if I'm going to do something separate for the impulse engines. I may do a separate switch for that, so that way I can turn the impulse engines off when I run the warp, when I turn the warp nacelles on, for example. So we'll see. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to do that or not. I may just have them turn on and stay on. It's just a much simpler lighting to do it that way. But that's basically all I need, and I'm going to pull out a little extra slack from these so that I have plenty of wire to run down the pole, because these are going to need to go to the middle here. And I'm going to leave just a little more. I'm going to do one more here so that I've got some extra wire to hook into the impulse crystal to get that lit up. And also, you do have a light on the bottom here. And we'll talk more about this when I get to the point of installing that. But if you notice in the movie, if you watch, when you look at the underside as the Reliant's flying overhead, you'll notice that this, what looks like, almost looks like a lower impulse crystal, that actually isn't steady on though. That actually blinks on and off in sync with your nav lights. So I'm gonna wire that up, and I think it looks, I'm gonna go back and look at it, make sure it looks kind of like an amber light that lights that up. So I'm gonna wire that into the nav lights because that's the way it looks on the studio model when you watch it in the movie. So I'm gonna pull out a bit more slack on this because I want to make sure I've got plenty here. I can always cut off excess, but I don't want to have to splice anymore into this. And now what I can do is I can go ahead and take this wire and run it through my mounting hole here. And we'll pull that all the way through. So that way I don't have a whole lot of spaghetti going on in here while I'm trying to work up here. All right, there we go. That's pretty much how my main power is going to run for this. I still, like I said, I need to run a separate circuit, but I'll do something similar for the strobes. And I've got to look and see if those strobes with the Tenna Controls kit, a lot of the times the Tenna control boards, they run off of the negative supply. So it may be possible just to wire them into the positive that I've got going here and then just have one negative wire running to the Tenna controls board. But I've got to look at the I got to look at the schematics and test that out to make sure I can do that. But I'm going to take a look at a couple things. I'm going to work on a couple things. I got to get my my LED, my Cobb LED strips. Let me grab those and show you those real quick, what I'm using for these. Let's see. This is white, that's warm white, so I don't want that, and this is cool white. So I think what I'm going to use is the cool white. It's because to me, when you look at it in the movie, actually no, that's my double density. That's not my Cobb lighting though. I might be able to use this, but I would much rather use my Cobb LEDs, which is what this should be. Yes, this is my Cobb LED strips. If you haven't seen these, the thing is these are basically look like just a bunch of SMDs instead of larger LED squares like you get with what I was just talking about. With your typical LED strips, you end up with larger squares like that. The great thing about these is you don't have to worry about hot spots with these. So I've pretty much been using these exclusively. I've got to find some time to use these though. So we'll see. I might be able to use these because these are double density, and I don't think I'm going to have, since I'm doing the 3D printed resin inserts, window inserts, I don't think I'm going to have to worry about hot spots as much as you typically would if you were doing something like, for example, if you were doing UV resin, or if you were doing the microcrystal clear in there in your windows, then you might get a little more of a hot spot to those, because those tend to dry really clear, versus those window inserts are going to have kind of a milky look to them when they're off. Much like the studio model, they're going to look kind of a milky look to them when they're off, and then they'll light up when it's turned on. So that's my plan for that. I'm going to do a test, so I'm going to see, I'm going to get some of those hooked up. I'm going to do some of the double density cool white, and probably put some of those window inserts in just to see if I'm going to have an issue with hot spots with that. If I don't, I'm going to use my cool white double density so I can get those kind of, still got to use that stuff up at some point. But I'm going to do some work, get these wired up, get these cut to size. That's the other great thing about these Cobbs. You can cut these a lot shorter than you can for smaller window sets than you can those other ones. They cut a little bit longer, about that long, versus these you can cut about, in the sections about that long, about half the length of those. So let me work on that, and we'll come back and see where we're at. All right, change of plans. So you can see I've pulled all the wiring back out. I've gone in and light blocked the inside. My thought was to go ahead and wire everything up and light block from the outside, but I decided to just go ahead and light block from the inside. And actually, I don't really think I'm going to need to have done all this light blocking. I painted it black, and then I've come over it with a coat of white. And but what I've decided I want to do is I want to be able to do a couple of different effects with this, and I want to be able to have the lights turn on in sequence in different sections of the ship. So when it turns on, it doesn't all just light up at once. It kind of lights up, section here, 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 here. Lights just come on throughout the ship. But in order to do that, I've got to block off all these different window openings with the inserts that I used. So what I'm working on now, and what you see in place here, is one of the windows. Now I've had to make some adjustments, so there's a little bit of a gap here in the front, but I've adjusted it since that. But it's close enough to where I can make this work. But I've now fixed that to where it's not as big of a gap. But the way I've got this set up is I made this light box, and you can see it there. And I've got openings for an LED, a 3mm LED on each end to shine in. And what I've also made is I've printed. Now I could use sheet styrene just as well as these, but I just went ahead and printed these up. And basically there's a little groove in here that these fit into place, and they fit in just like that. So your LEDs are in the back lighting up this white piece here, which, like I said, you could just use a piece of sheet styrene. This is white resin that I've used to print these up with. I had some white resin, so I just went ahead and 3D printed these. And you see, I get them glued in there, then I've got to do a little bit of sanding to even them out. But I'll fix that in the 3D file when I reprint these, when I redo them. But I'm not too worried about it. I can just trim these down. I can glue this in place and then sand it to be even, but I'll fix the 3D file. I'm going to make these light boxes, and these will be free. I'm going to make these free download. I don't really want to get into adding these into the aftermarket kit parts that I'm doing, because it's a lot. I don't want to do all that printing, and I just don't think it's really a necessary part for these inserts. So you can do it if you're going to want to light these individually. But I think most people are just going to want to use the inserts and then put the LED strips like I was originally going to do. So I'm going to make this a free file to download. I'll think about whether or not I'll let people add this into the window inserts for sale. I'll 3D print them for an additional fee. I don't really want to do that though. But so I'm going to make these available for free for download off of my Colts 3D page. Once I get these all done, these will be ready for download. So I'm working on these, and so anyway, I've got this set up. This white strip is just for light diffusion and to help kind of make the light spread out more. But I've worked out one box here. I'm working on these other ones. I've got to make some adjustments to this one. It doesn't quite fit into place, but you see this one will be the same way. It has a white insert that'll go in, and I'll glue that in place. And I've got a spot for actually 3 LEDs on this one on this end, and then 2 on this, and one for the upper and lower windows. And then this piece will go in and diffuse all that light, so you don't get any bright spots through the windows. But I've got another step I'm going to use to help eliminate any bright spots, but this is the first step in that. So I've got this one I'm working on, which would go back here for this one here. But like I said, I've got to do a little more work on that, and I've got another one here that I'm working on. Again, diffusion piece. You can either 3D print these, or if you don't have white resin, just get some sheet styrene and cut these to size, and you can just use sheet styrene for these. Again, I got 3mm light holes already in the boxes, and this one will go in the back here. But I'm working on redoing these because I got to angle them a little bit different to work. But I've got this one in, and I've got it wired up, and I want to kind of show you real quick what this is going to look like. But the other thing I've got to mention, and I think I'd mentioned this before that I was going to do this, but I printed up some window inserts, and these basically just insert to the window openings on the window inserts themselves. These just plug in there. And what you end up with is, let me plug this in so we can take a look at it. Turn this light off, might make it a little bit easier. But once I got this lined up, and this will seal up fine, but right now that it's kind of sticking out a little bit. But you can see how that lights up. And the camera's giving a little bit of a blue tint. I don't know why the camera does it. It does that in the movie too. You'll notice sometimes when you see the windows on the ship, some of them will look a little bluish, like they got a little bit of a blue tint to it. But you can see how nice and even those are lighting up. No hot spots at all. But I think that's going to work out real well. And it's just basically, once I get this, now I've got these in temporarily. I'm going to take these out. My plan is to paint, do all my painting I need to do, and then these will just push into place. I may use a little bit of the micro crystal clear to glue them in place, because I can put that in the opening, push the insert in, and then wipe it off, and that micro crystal clear won't hurt your paint finish. And these will sit pretty flush, just pushing them into place. So I think that's going to work out great. I hope. Fingers crossed. But yeah, I think that looks good. I think it's going to look, it really makes the lighting look in scale, I guess you could say, with the model itself. So I don't know why it's got that blue tint. When I look at my viewfinder on the camera, it looks like these look kind of bluish, but they're not blue at all in person. It's just the way the camera's picking it up. But again, like I said, if you watch the movie, you'll notice that it looks like that too in the movie sometimes. It looks like the windows got a slight blue tint to them. So that works out pretty good, actually. So anyway, that's what I am working on right now. I've got a little more work to do to get these other two pieces to work. And then I've got to work on fitting in, because these windows here are going to kind of butt up real close to this part here. But if you look, I angled that on the front. You can see there's enough room in there, I think, to where I can get lighting in there. So I think that's going to work just fine. I've just got to get everything sized up and fit into place, and then that'll work. But that's my plan anyway. I want to be able to turn these windows on by sequence. And so even these two sets here will be on separate circuits. These won't turn on all at the same time. This one might turn on first, then this one, same thing with this side, turn on. And then what I'll probably do is have these wired together so both the outside units turn on, then the inside units, then these windows around the bridge or around the BC deck, and then the last thing I'll turn on is the bridge. I think that'll give it a pretty cool effect if I can work it out. I've got some Arduino code I'm playing around with, but I'm not a very good Arduino programmer. I'm not an Arduino programmer at all. I've just found a couple different pieces of code that I'm trying to work with and get it to work together on the same program, so I don't have to use, I can just use the one, hopefully Arduino Nano, and mount that probably in the base. So that way if I want to adjust the programming, I can. Also, the great thing about that is I can adjust the brightness of the lights in any section of the ship if I need to. If one section is looking a little brighter than the other, I can dim them down a little bit. So that's a great option to have. And I didn't really think about it before I started to kind of try to run my wiring. And then when I was sitting here, I was just thinking, you know, it'd be really cool if I could get just have these light up separate. I'm going to have these lights in the vents are going to do a blue fade on. They're going to fade on with the impulse crystal when that turns blue. My plan is to have the impulse crystal go blue and amber, just like the refit did. And I'm going to have this turn off when it's amber and running on impulse. My impulse engines will be on. Impulse crystal will be orange or amber. These will be off. When it goes to warp, impulse engines go off. Crystal turns blue, and these light up blue as well, along with, of course, the engines. So I think that'll give it a pretty cool effect, but I got quite a bit of work to do, and there's still some things I'm going to have to learn with Arduino if I'm going to try to get that done. I do want to say that I want to give a shout out to Spencer Wolf. He's given me quite a bit of help on the code, because I'm not a great programmer. And Spencer Wolf kind of knows his way around Arduino programming, so he's helped me out with he's helped me do a really cool. He's put together a really cool effect for the warp engines, which we're going to talk about when we get to those. And I think it's going to be really cool and just add some nice effect to this. But That's where I'm going with this. So I'm going to do some more work on this once I get all the inserts in. I don't know yet how I'm going to do this back because I can't really put an insert around the shuttle bay because I've got this light on top that's right on top of the shuttle bay. I'm not going to be able to put an insert in there without blocking that. So I'm going to have to figure out how I'm going to do all these lights on the back here along with lighting up the shuttle bay door. So once I get all these inserts in place though, we'll come back and take a look and see where I'm at. Alright guys, so working on these lights, doing a little bit of a light test right now. I've got a little bit of a crazy setup going on right now, but someone had asked why I don't just use a Cobb LED strip. So I've got Cobb LED strips. Unfortunately, the Arduino program that I'm using isn't compatible with using a 9 to 12 volt Cobb LED strip. The Cobb LED strips I have won't even light up with anything less than 12. If you try plugging in a 9 volt power source, they won't even light up. So you need at least 12 volts for the ones I've got. I'm sure there are ones lesser, and in fact I did find a set of a roll of 5 volt Cobb LED strip. So this will work off of 5 volts, which would be compatible with an Arduino. So just to see if it's something I wanted to use, this is supposed to be cool white, but I can tell you sitting here looking at it that to me it looks more bright white than cool white. The LED bulbs, the 3mm LEDs I'm using are cool white, and you can see they've got a little bit of a bluish, just a slight bluish tint to them. You can tell when they're up against a bright white like this Cobb LED strip. I don't know if the camera's going to pick this up. Let me turn this light off, and we'll see if the camera will pick this up very well. I can't get too close because I've kind of got this weird wired setup, and I'm kind of short on slack on my cord, and I can't get this part here to close quite because I don't have the light box glued into place, so it's kind of in a spot where it doesn't want to seal up all the way. But if I can hold this down enough, I think you can see, if the camera's picking it up, you can tell the difference. This one here on the right, as you're looking at in the screen, is the cool white LEDs, or 3mm LEDs. This is supposed to be, this one on the left is supposed to be a cool white Cobb LED strip, but you can tell it's, if the camera's picking it up right, it's more of a bright white than a cool white like this one here. So I don't think I'm going to go with that. I want it to be more of a cool white light to the interior, because to me that's kind of what it looks like in the movie. To me, that's not to say that anything, you can use bright white, use whatever you want. That's my opinion. But I like the cool white look better than the bright white. I just don't like the bright white for the interior lights. It's too bright. Now certainly I could dim this down. Right now I've got this running through that 5mm LED strip running through a buck converter, a BUCK converter, buck converter. If you want to see more about how to use a buck converter, look at my Chronos 1 build, because I changed the polar lights. The lighting kit for polar lights runs off batteries. I changed it to run off a plug-in, and I did it using a buck converter. So go look that up if you want to see how. I'm not going to go into how to use a buck converter in this, because I'm not going to use this lighting setup. I'm going to stick with my 3mm cool white LEDs, which I'm going to have to order more of, because, let me unplug this. This is going to take quite a few, which I was kind of hoping I was going to like the Cobb LED strip, because I could just cut them up into small strips and use them, and I wouldn't have to install so many LEDs. Plus they don't put off as much heat as these LEDs do, because I can tell you that, let me wrap a piece of tape around this, because I don't want these wires to touch and short out while I'm messing around with stuff. So let me kind of wrap these up a little bit so they don't short out. And let me unplug this anyway, because I need to take this lid off to show you what I'm getting ready to talk about. But so each of these light boxes takes 2 LEDs. So this one here I'm going to swap out. For if you did want to use these though, you can still use the light box. You just put them in, and I've got this white strip again. You can just use, I'm not going to include these for printing. I'm just going to include the light boxes up because really you could just use a thin piece of sheet styrene will do the same thing. You just cut it down and then glue it into place. And it gives you a little more diffusion, which you don't really need with the LED strip. But it does reduce that direct light some, so it looks a little more in scale, but still not as in scale to me as the LEDs, the 3mm LEDs. So that's what I'm going to go with. But let me set this setup aside a minute. So, but what I'm saying is these LEDs, I've got to order more because each of these light boxes for the rim windows, there's 4 of these light boxes. I've got one here. And then I've got to take this one apart. I'm not going to do it right now, but I've got that one there and I've got another one here. So these are all just going to line up around the rim. So I've got 4 of those, so that's 8 LEDs I need right there. Plus you've got these light boxes at the back. That's another 4, so that's 12. And then these light boxes on the sides, I'm going to see if I need 3 LEDs, but I've made these to take 3 LEDs in case. I got a support in here still. Just in case it needs it. I don't know if it's going to need it, but I'm going to have to test it out and see if I can get away with just 1 LED instead of 2 on this side. But if it doesn't, it's going to take 3, so that's another 6 I got to add on there, so that's 18. If my math is right, and I'm not the greatest at math, so don't hold it against me. But so that's 18 LEDs I need just for these. And then don't forget, I've still got to do light boxes for these front windows. So if you're looking at 2 LEDs for each of these, maybe just 1 for this one. I don't know if I'm going to need 2 for this one. We'll see. But if I do need 2, that's 2, 4, 6. That's another 8. That's 24, right? 24, 18. 19, 20, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. Actually, it's 26 if I'm counting right. That's 26 LEDs I'm going to need just for doing all the windows individually. This would be so much easier to do if I just used Cobb LED strip. But again, I want to be able to switch these lights on. Hopefully I can get the Arduino program straight to where these will kind of cut on. I want these to cut on from back to front, and then from either from in or the out or out to in. Probably from out to in on these 2 front windows. I want them to cut outside to inside, and then I want the bridge to light up after that. So I kind of want these to light up in sequence. I think it's just going to add a little bit of cool factor to it when it powers up. So anyway, that's where I'm at. So I'm going to have to order more. I ordered more, and it's not going to be enough because these are only packs of 10. So I've only got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I've only got 18, 20 right now, so I need at least 6 more. So I'm gonna have to order another pack of those. So I usually get those in a day. So I'll order those, and in the meantime I'm gonna work with what I've got. I can at least get these windows put in. I've still got to figure out the back here, how I'm gonna do the shuttle bay doors. Let me pull these out so they don't go falling all over the place. So what I've figured out is the shuttle bay and this, get this a little closer. This light and these 3 lights on each edge of the shuttle bay, they all can light up a cool white. These here, the triangle lights, look like they're more like a warm white to me, or maybe even a yellow, but I'm going to go with a warm white. So I just need a light box to kind of block off this here, these 3 lights and the shuttle bay, to light up with a cool white LEDs, and then light these up with warm white LEDs. So again, that's going to be another 1, 2, 3, 4, another 4. So basically I need a whole another pack of LEDs to cover all these. I hate using that many LEDs because these resistors, mainly at the resistor, you feel these get warm, so they're going to have some warmth to them. So that many lights in here, I'm not too happy about, but it'll be fine. It's not that much heat, but you can just tell there's just a little bit of heat coming off of these resistors on these LEDs. So that's my plan, unless at some point it just doesn't work out and I'll go back to Cobb strips. But That's what I'm going to try out, see if I can get it to work. So I'm going to work on that a bit, and we'll come back and see how it comes out. All right, guys, so I've started working on getting these light boxes into place. You can see how they're fitting in. And I've just got them temporarily wired up to show you what I've got here. But let me plug this in. And you can see the light, but what I'll do is once I get this kind of finalized, I'll go around this with some black tulip. If you're not familiar with it. And I'll put some black tulip around the backs of these LEDs and around the edges of the light boxes to block those out. So that's how I'll seal those up. But here's what I've got. And I know the camera picks up a little more blue, it looks like, than what these LEDs really are. But you can see how that lighting's kind of coming out. Now these will be further diffused because either I'll use these inserts shown that I printed up for the windows, or I'll come in with some microcrystal clear and fill them in once I get done painting. So those will get a little bit more diffusion, but I think they're looking pretty good even without the diffusion yet. Do keep in mind that there is I do have these white pieces that I printed up that's giving it some diffusion because the light's actually hitting that, and this is kind of helping to even it out some. There is not too bad of an issue with bright spots. I might have a little bit of one in this window right here if I look at it at a certain angle, but most of these are pretty evenly lit regardless of how I look at them. So that's turning out pretty well. I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to keep on working around with this. I've got some light boxes for the shuttle bays that I've had to make some adjustments to make sure it covers the whole thing and allows room for light to shine around this once they're in place. So I've got those worked up. I've got light boxes made up for, well, I had to redo some, I had to redo it, make some adjustments for this one on the outside because it has to fit in place in front of this one. So I've got that reprinting now. This should be done here shortly. And I've also printed up some light boxes for where the impulse crystal is, and also that lower impulse crystal. Now the one thing I want to mention though is, and we'll talk about this more when we get to that point, this lower one actually blinks just like it blinks in sync with the nav lights. So I'm going to have that blink just like it shows on the movie with the nav lights. It's kind of an odd thing to me, but that's the way it was in the movie. And then I've made these and sized these up to where they will fit right in that depression around, so you can line those up pretty easy. So I've got these made up. I also have a light box that I had to make some adjustments to for the impulse engines back here that will kind of cover this whole area, and you just insert a 3mm LED on each side for the engines. So that should make that pretty simple. So I've got those working up, and I think that's about it. I'm just going to continue working on getting these light boxes in, and then by the time I get these done, I should have those other parts ready. I can tell now I'm going to have to split this video into two different videos to do all the lighting on the saucer section, because I think I'm already like 35-40 minutes into the video and I haven't even really finished this. So I'm going to get this finished up. We'll come back and take a look at these sections once I get them ready, and then we'll probably wrap this video up, and I'll come back in a second episode and we'll do the top and kind of get this hopefully to where we're ready to seal this up and get ready to work on our warp engines and our roll bar that goes over the top. So give me a bit, we'll be back. Alright, so I've got those light boxes all in place. I'm going to open this up and show you a second, but it's easier to do this with the lid on it first and show you what it's looking like. But if I can show you this back, right now I've got a battery in here doing this, showing this shuttle bay. I know you can't really see much with that yet. You can kind of see how that light's coming up. It'll do better if I can put the inserts in here. I still got to work on those and see about doing that. And I've got to do some resizing. I've actually got a new insert printing because this one is kind of blocking this light up here a little bit. You can see, not too bad, but enough that I want to make some adjustments to it. And you can see the impulse engines there. Those are lit up. And here's all the windows. Windows are all nice and evenly lit. They look good. You can see, I think the camera's picking up when I rotate this, you get a little bit of blue, mainly out of those center windows when I rotate it, which is kind of like what you saw on the filming model. At some angles you would get kind of a bluish light coming out. Now I haven't done the windows in front because I'm going to do that next episode, because I think last I looked I'm pushing 45 minutes already on this episode, so I think I'm going to stop with this. But yeah, those look really good to me. I like the way those turned out, and I might do a little adjusting to this because I do notice it. I may not worry about it because in person this doesn't look any different than the edge windows, but the camera's just picking up a little bit more of that difference there because of the center, not the LEDs being on the outside. Let me pull this off. We can take a look at that. But this is the setup. You can see those LEDs on the outside. That's why I get a little bit of a dim spot there. But like I said, in person you can't really see it. And I'm hoping once I get those inserts or get micro crystal clear, whichever I use in these, that'll clear that up completely, because that'll help carry that light a little bit more. But I've got this battery temporarily taped in here just to run the impulse, or actually it's running these shuttle bay lights right now. And but you can see all the black boxes, all the black boxes, the light boxes that I've got in here, and that's going to let me run these two lights. These two forward sets of windows are together, these two are together, these two are wired together, and then the back ones are wired together. So they're all, that way if I can get the Arduino program to work, these will all cut on from back to front, or from front to back, either way. I think I'll do it from back to front though. And then my upper windows will cut on from outer to inner, and then the bridge will be the last thing that lights. So I think that'll work out. That's looking pretty good. I've got to get that Arduino program. That's another reason why I'm kind of going to end this at this, because I want to go get that Arduino program up and running and make sure, test all this out before I get too far, because I've got to make sure that the resistors I've got in here aren't too high of a value for that Arduino, because that Arduino right now is hooked to 9 volts. That Arduino is only 5 volts. So that might also help out with some of this over brightness in some of these spots, because it's going to be a lower power. But I may have to swap out my resistors on these because of that. So I'm going to get the Arduino program up and running and test that. And I'll finish working on these, like I said, I've got these shuttle bay ones, light boxes, reprinting now. I've also got this reprinting because it's a little bit too tall, so I had to shorten it a little bit, which is why you kind of see it just taped in place here right now. But it's coming together. It's looking pretty good. I like the way it's turning out. It's going to help a lot with the lighting in here and kind of help me bring some life to this model. So like I said, pretty much going to wrap it up here. I think I'm 45 minutes, probably pushing 50 minutes now on this, and I didn't really get a whole lot done in this episode, not as much as I was hoping. But I may put some information in this that a lot of people that do models don't really need. But my hope is those that don't do a lot of lighting and that, this kind of helps you out and helps you work out your lighting. So if you have any questions, please drop me a note below, shoot me a message on Facebook, or shoot me an email at engineschair@gmail.com. The link for that is in the notes, the back of the video, or below the video. And also, below the video are links for all my sponsors who I want to give a shout out to again. Cass over at Lake Monster Details, Gus over at GCals, Gary over at Mass Design, and Paul over at Paragrafix. I appreciate all their help and their support. And pretty much a little bit from everybody's getting used in this build just about. So anyway, again, thank you everybody for watching. Till next time, keep modeling.